influencer, all of these things, and it's just basically, it's like a more socialized version of Wikipedia. But one of the things about Quora is that it's very transparent. So you need to post your name. You can do things as anonymous, but it's best to show who you are. So I'm going to quickly, and if you want to email me, or, so another social media piece of advice in personal branding and also just in company branding, be consistent, use the same name. So for me, I'm Rebecca Forever. And the reason why I'm Rebecca Forever is because somebody once asked if they could get a tattoo of Rebecca on their arm, which I thought was a funny question. And I told them, yes, as long as it says Rebecca Forever, because you're going to have it forever. So then my friends started calling me Rebecca Forever, and that's why. That's my Twitter name, that's my Facebook name, that's my email. So pick a name that you like, pick a name that's unique, and then use it. Okay, so it's kind of hard to read. So I just want to show you. So here's the topic, Dominican Republic. If we click on that, here are all the questions. And what's interesting is that there's, I think, 177 people following this topic, but there are no answers to any of these questions. So things like, when's the best time to visit the Dominican? When's the best time to visit the Dominican? So if you were, say, a travel agency for the Dominican, or if you were maybe, what's the word, like a chamber of commerce, tourism, obviously you would create a Quora account and you would write, anytime is a good time to visit the Dominican. What's the best friendly, family, all-inclusive resort in the Dominican Republic? It's a very specific, pointed question. And any family-friendly, all-inclusive resort in the Dominican Republic is losing customers right now by not answering this question. Are there any iOS classes? I don't know what an iOS class is. Does anybody? I'm assuming Erin.
What's iOS? Try making an account in Quora, but it says that you need an invitation to sign up.
Okay.
It said, sorry, you must have an invitation to create an account in Quora.
To go onto Quora itself, you need an invitation, but when I get back to the slideshow, it's going to give you the actual address of the question. That'll allow you to go onto Quora, so you don't have to create. So we'll go through that in a second. So what should I do when traveling to the Dominican Republic? There's some ideas. There's some ideas. So it's kind of an interesting way to get a perspective, and it's also great for you. So if you want to travel somewhere, or if you're looking for a job or a major or a class to take, or even a show to watch, anything. Here's Quora, and it's social. So if you're on Twitter, you can follow everybody that you follow on Twitter, you can follow on Quora. If you're on Facebook, you can follow all your friends, you can send invitations to all your friends. And I think it takes social networking one step further. So with that said, I'm going to go back to this and show you the comments, and it's case sensitive, so it has to be a capital A, 027, lowercase t. So this is what I want you to do. Again, is answer your question, give your reason why, and talk about how she can leverage social media to support that decision, what, as a manager, what you would advise. And we're going to go through the questions, so make sure you write the names of everyone in your group. And if anybody in your group disagrees, or if anybody in your group wants a special quote or has a great idea, give them credit for it. Let them just be as specific as you'd like. Are there any questions? We're probably going to do this, what's that? 7:30? So we have, it's 7:30 now. Here's the thing, is I'd like you to work until 8. But if I hear like a lot of unconstructive speaking and unconstructive talking and you're not really doing what you're supposed to, then we're just going to stop, take everybody who's done, and then kind of go on. So I created a word cloud so we can see what did you say the most. So the word used most was tour, and then gaga, like, fans. And what's interesting is as you go to remove words, So I'm going to remove tour, and then Gaga. And so you have fans, you have career, you have artists, you have risk, opportunity, money. And it's just an interesting way to sort of see all of the things, all the decisions that are important to her in this. What I thought, just glancing at your answers, I thought a really interesting sort of, someone posted an advantage of Kanye actually canceling his part of the tour was because usually people forget opening acts. I'm not sure who posted it, but I thought that was kind of a neat point to make, was even by scaling down her tour, she still becomes the headlining act, which is far more memorable. Who's the one, what group posted that? Anyone wanna, over there? Okay. Yeah, it's a good point to make. So maybe she's not opening up for crowds of 20,000, but instead she's headlining for crowds of 10,000. So how many people thought that, raise your hand if your group thought that she should continue with the arena tour as planned. Okay, now raise your hand if you thought option 2 was good, that she should scale the tour down, smaller, kind of more comfortable crowds. And now raise your hand if you thought she should just cancel it completely and sort of start from scratch. Okay, we've got one outlier. That's okay, that happens. So what I want to do is just talk to you a little bit about what she actually did. Let me see, view, full screen mode. So what she actually did was she went with option 2. She scaled the tour down. But wait, because in a sense you're all right, except for that one guy over there. That's okay. Get used to being wrong. You're a man. I'm kidding. So I was totally blushing from the way that was received. I didn't think you'd all think that was funny. Anyway, so what she did was she continued with the tour, but they scaled it down. They instead of performing at arenas, where an arena typically will seat at least 20,000, they said we're comfortable with 10,000. Let's do it. They performed 22 tours. And what she did was through social media, she connected directly with her fans. She talked to her fans. She said, I think for one of the tours, she had it in Toronto, and she said, all right, I'm performing there in 72 hours. You have 72 hours to learn all the words of my songs, dress appropriately. So when everybody showed up, it was like they were invited into this exclusive party where they were all dressed, they were all singing, they were all part of this community. And she did it herself. It's not like she had somebody else managing her account. She manages all of her own social media accounts. So she, at the time that this started, Ashton Kutcher was still the talk of social media because he was the first guy to get over 1 million followers. Well, now at this point, she's got 15 million Twitter followers. So just by connecting with her audience, she was able, so she's got the 22 small arena tour. I think halfway through the tour, she found out that she had gone bankrupt again. She lost all of her money. And she was, how is this possible? I've got 5 #1 songs. How do I keep losing money? And it's just because she wanted to make sure that every single show was personal to the audience. The audience could understand it wasn't just a cookie cutter, do the same every time. So what ended up happening was after the 22 shows, instead of handling it themselves, they contracted out to a managing agency where it's a little bit different money. Instead of taking all of the money, they get a little bit less money, but they did 140 arena-sized shows, sold them all out, and in 6 months, she made $200 million. So by going with option 1, or option 2, scaling it down, but building momentum, consistent momentum, she was able to then go to option 1 and have an arena. And so now, at this point, everybody knows her. Not everybody likes her, but everybody knows her. She's got 40 million fans on Facebook. She's got 11 million Twitter followers. And on YouTube, her videos on YouTube have 1.67 billion views. So people have watched her on YouTube 1.67 billion times. A lot of views for one artist who started out 3 years ago and no one had heard of. And the thing that she does is when she talks to her fans, she talks to them. She refers to them as her little monsters. And she says this is because she felt like a freak, like a monster growing up. And so she's not losing sight that she used to be awkward. She used to be uncomfortable. So she still talks to them and she calls herself Mama Monster. So when she has success, they feel like they're part of her success. It's a very maternal, embracing. She understands her identity and her brand and what she's good at. And I think it was at a concert a while ago, she was talking about reception of her new album. And she said, you know, a critic said, it's okay, but it's not going to get her any new fans. And what she said to her audience was, I don't care. The fans that count to me are you. It's people now. I don't care about getting new fans. I just want you to love me. So I think that's just a strong message to brands. You know, not everybody's going to love you, but be aware of who your current customers are, who you need to talk to, and be consistent, be strong, and talk to them. Don't patronize them. Don't talk down to them. So just, we need to have time for a few questions and hopefully some answers. But I just want to talk through a little bit about monitoring and metrics. It's a little bit boring, but it's sort of what to look for, how to tell if your brand is successful, how to optimize. And this is actually, I'm only talking about it for a little bit, but this is actually what I know best. This is what I work with on the major brands, on how to look for numbers, how to look past just followers or retweets in context. So right now, 3/4 of the companies on Twitter, on social media, they have no idea how their customers are talking about them, where to find out what they're saying. 1/3 of them don't even measure it. 1/3 of them don't even look at it. They're just sort of on there doling it out to an intern, putting out blank messages. And so my advice is to look for engagement. So you've got 10,000 followers, but not one of them is talking to you. Or you've got 100 followers, and all of them are not only talking to you, but they're all promoting your brand, and they're all promoting your brand to their friends. Which is better, having 10,000 nothing, or having 100 really important? Exactly, having 100 relevant, important followers, and keeping those followers, because once you have a brand advocate, chances are you've got them, I guess, until you piss them off. So, as long as you don't make them angry, you've got them for life. Now they've figured out there's a rule of online engagement. It's called 99-1. And you've probably found this for yourselves on Facebook, on Twitter. Of all of your audience, this applies to brands, this applies to me and you, of all of your audience, 100%, only 1% is actually creating the content. They're actually writing, posting, engaging. 9% is responding. Maybe they're liking, maybe they're writing to you, maybe they're commenting. And the other 90%, they're just there. Maybe they're reading, maybe they're ignoring, maybe they've hidden your news stream. But it's an interesting thought for brands is, you know, here you're putting all this money, you're throwing all this money into an advertising bucket where 90% of your people aren't engaged. What do you do? How do you make it important? So you have to look at things like context, relevancy. Are the 90% that aren't doing anything, are they people who look like they're interested in your brand? Or are they people that are just spammers and are looking to follow you for no apparent reason? Things to ignore. Ignore things like numbers of fans, numbers of followers. Again, they're just meaningless metrics without context, without looking a little bit deeper. So one of the things that I found is interesting is a client, sort of a division of Microsoft. They have 2 accounts. And of these 2 accounts, one of them is 90% men, and the other one is 70% women. The one that's 90% men has the most updates, the most followers, and it's much larger, but there's no engagement, there's nobody talking. The one that's all women, all the women are engaging, all the women are talking, and it's really an interesting study to see if you have a primarily female audience, they're a lot more likely to respond to certain posts and respond to certain messages. But it would happen that one is marketing and one is tech, and just by the way the industry is today, women are typically more marketing than tech. But that could change or it couldn't change. But just look at context, look at meaning, don't just look at numbers. So you've got 500 friends on Facebook. Do you really have 500 friends? Or do you have 500 friends that maybe you met once at a party and then connected with? And then when to change your strategy. When something isn't working, when something isn't using. I used my friend Peter. I talked about him earlier about wishing everybody a happy birthday on Facebook. And I also mentioned about branding yourself consistently. When he first got into the social media realm, he branded himself as skydiver because he liked to skydive. So he could always set up alerts and monitor his accounts and look for mentions of skydiver and always reply to people, always respond to people. The problem is a couple of years ago, maybe it was just a year ago, I'm not sure if they're local or big, but it was basically a rap artist came out with the name Skydiver. So as he is monitored, he's getting all of these completely irrelevant messages about people talking about the skydiver who is a completely different being. So what does he do? Does he share the space? Instead, he decided to rebrand himself as his own name. So now he still loves skydiving, but he's now at Peter Shankman instead of at Skydiver. So that was changing your strategy, knowing, okay, it is your name, you've owned it, you've been part of it, it's been your identity. But sometimes you just have to give it up and move forward. Okay, one more thing that I think is interesting is looking at negative reviews on Yelp. They've figured out that I think it's a 1 star less rating on Yelp. Do you guys use Yelp down here? Yelp is just a community review. So you can give it anywhere from 1 to 5 stars. And some people will always give stuff 5 stars, some people will always give stuff 1 star. But if a place has 200 reviews, you can kind of get a good feeling for what kind of place it is. But they figured out that 1 star accounts for a 20% difference in business. So if your business is only getting 3 stars, figure out why. Look at the reviews. Figure out why are people only giving you 3 stars? What can you do better to get that extra 20% in business? Because that might be the difference between, succeeding and going bankrupt. All right, this I believe is where my last slide is. Just my thoughts on trends to watch, where I think we're going in the future. I think we're going to see all the celebrities that were approachable, that were trying to engage, and again, there are some exceptions, but I think you're going to see them withdraw and maybe even join their own community, their own celebrities-only forum, where you can still respond to them, but it's just a lot more protected, a lot more guarded. Because there's more politicians, there's more celebrities, there's more people that just open their mouths and get themselves into trouble. It's the cost of their career. So it's a plus-minus game. I think if you have a new celebrity forum, maybe they'll have something where celebrities can delete their tweets or messages forever, which is what they can't do now. I think probably a more standardized analytics right now. There's no consistent way to monitor social media, and everybody has their own opinion about how to do it. I have a feeling Google will probably be the first one to put it out, but I think there'll be a standardized analytics, a way to say, what's our return? What's our ROI? What's worth investing? Should we spend all of our marketing budget? Should we spend half of our marketing budget? Is it even relevant? I think with all of the information, all the programs, everything that's coming out, you might see a simplification, maybe a streamlined, just everything sort of funneling into one feed. Facebook is getting a lot of it noisy, and I think you're going to see a lot of simplification. And finally, a lot more location-based. I did hear that you have Foursquare at the university. Is anybody here the mayor of the university at Foursquare? Is anybody here checked in right now on Foursquare? A few of you? Okay. So, Foursquare is just the beginning. I think the location-based apps are huge. And you're going to see a lot of that. And I believe you have a speaker, not tomorrow, the next day, who will talk specifically about all the possibilities of location-based apps. So, with that said, again, I'm Rebecca. You can follow me on Twitter at Rebecca Forever. Now that you're on the Facebook page, feel free to friend me. Fair warning, my Twitter is basically me being kind of political. My Facebook is me showing pictures of my baby. So, but I never show my baby on Twitter, and I'm never political on Facebook. I try to keep them very separate. And so, are there any questions?